Ladies and gentlemen, the living Sahaji Master. Sri Michael Owens.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey.
It's good to be amongst dear friends, whole family, participants and devotees of the way of truth. Now more than ever before, it is important that all be done in the name of love and the selfless heart. It is important to know when we give of ourselves, all thought of self should be abandoned. It is important for the will of Sugmat, also known as God, to move forward by the push of the selfless heart. So much in this world is done in the name of ego and power and glory of the self, that this world teeters on the edge of destruction and total annihilation. It only takes but a few souls who sincerely serve in the name of love to steer the ship of this world away from the edge of disaster and back to the still, peaceful waters. So much needs to change in this world, and none of it can be done in the old ways of war and violence. You cannot force positive change. It occurs naturally as an inward process going out. It occurs when the heart unfolds from itself and embraces pure love and service. There is a key word. If you want to know how to develop a selfless heart, it is in the service to all of life with no thought of self. If you serve no matter what discomforts or difficulties, boy, that was difficult, you may have, if you put the self aside, your heart will open like a summer rose, and its fragrance will heal a troubled world. Serve God and your fellow beings as though there is no tomorrow. See what miracles will happen in your way. And when we gather for a retreat like this, we must ask ourselves, what is it that we wish to bring to it? Many times, those who attend retreats are hoping to gain something from it. There's not so much thought to what they can give. Such is not the case for us. We are here to give to one another and to the world at large. Many of you are already in some kind of service, whether as organizers, workshop facilitators, presenters, and speakers. And so you say at times, geez, my plate is full. I've done my part. What more is there for me to do? There is more, and it is this. Be conscious of all you're doing, and do it in the name of love and Sudmad. And if you're not fully conscious of what you are doing, and if you allow yourself to be distracted by personal thoughts or concerns, then what you do loses half its value. Since you're here in a physical body, why not be here in spirit too? And be in full consciousness of it. Before each task, simply say or think, I do this in the name of Sudmad. Then it becomes much more than what it seems on the surface. It goes directly into the heart of the world. If your voice rings out and carries a very strong vibration when we take this attitude upon our heart, make it loud. Be conscious of all you do and say and bless everything with love. God has given us a great gift. What is this great gift to man? Is it the air he takes into his lungs? Is it the sun on a field of harvest? Or the wink of the moon through cherry tree blossoms? Is it the song of the red-winged blackbird or the wind that gives it flight? Where is God's gift to man? At the height and top of a hidden peak or beneath the feet of the ocean? Is it in the apple blossom or the succulent seeds of a ripe melon? Is it in a lost lover's kiss, a childlike embrace, a lonely woman's unseen face? When is God's gift given to man? Is it in the hot breath of summer or the cold touch of a December blight? Is it just before rising or at the end of a long and twisted night? Is it in January, February, June, or May? Is it in a month forgotten by the calendar of days? And I say to you, how is God's gift given to man? Does it come by a dream or a feeling, or by faith and long suffering? Is it given as a prayer or an offering, or by the tithing or alms to the poor? Comes it like a fairy dancing on a breath of light, or a shadow stolen from the moon at night? In all things, God is. In all sounds, in all times, in all ways. In every rush of howling wind, God is. In every crash of broken waves on a sandy beach, God is. In every morsel of food in our mouth, God is. In every fathomable hope and dream, in every impossible goal and scheme, God is. To man, God's gift is love and it is life. It is the very existence of God that pulses through your heart. It gives you the compassion of drawing a tear when you see others in plight and suffering, where you see yourself being compelled to get up and want to give a reaching hand to someone, or you reach for something in your pocket and You're wondering if you have it there because you want to give it of yourself with no feeling of wanting of any return, but the pleasure and the love of giving to one of God's children. I would like to share with you. It is a wonderful spiritual exercise. It comes from the spiritual temples of God. It is called the carpenter exercise. And it was rightly named, for it was a carpenter that helped change this world with a very simple message of love. Love thy neighbor. And it was without condition. He sat with everyone, shared his love with everyone, and he left a mark upon this world that changed the course of hope. He gave people reason to reach out to one another. And of course, he gave up an ultimate sacrifice, and that was his self. But he gave up in a sense that his life was not long. But what is the value of living if we can't give something to be remembered? This exercise comes from a long revered teacher. Many of you have been in the court with him, and that is Milarepa. And he has said that there are very few souls on earth who are really happy with their lives as they are. And they would like to have an opportunity to build a new life for themselves. So he said that the White Robe Order, which is a part of the Healing Order, would like to help those souls attain those goals for positive changes and restructuring their outer and inner lives. And so this following exercise can be used to great effect. But I say, when you use these exercises, look to yourself first. I received an IRO from a very young participant, and he said, I did this exercise, but I don't see how I can change the world. And I said, look in the mirror. You're changing it now. It starts here. And the power of one is a mighty one. And look how many lives that believed in that have changed our life. In music, the times are changing. I remembered when I was young, and I saw this man with this whiny voice. And I said, well, he's not the best singer in the world, but I really like that message. And he changed the course of music. When James Taylor wrote his songs of love, I mean, let's even talk about Teddy Pendergrass. All these men. They were all affected by the light and sound, but it was the power of one. People just think that they got there all there by themselves. No, it was a great struggle. Ray Charles, all of these men of light were affected in so many different fields. And it is just not a matter of theology. It's a matter of belief in oneself and that one can make a difference with what you have. One of our participants was in homeopathic medicine, and he's a therapist, and he says, I touch people every day. I said, you're touching the world in the way in which you touch them because love is coming from those hands. And you have no idea sometimes what's inside that heart that just needs a kind touch. And in that, you're using the open, selfless heart. Now I'm going to walk you through this exercise. It's quite new because this book has just been released, but it's one that Milarepa had personally said to me that he dedicated to each of you, in that this is the first time in a group that it's ever been used. And it's because of the uniqueness of each of you as soul. So you do not have to close your eyes necessarily, but for effective awakening, the middle eye is very effective in terms of the stream of light that comes through, because there's a spectrum that begins to form in that middle eye in accordance to your spiritual signature. Many men of light, like Phineas Quimby, Tesla, all knew how these currents worked. But the pineal gland is extremely special in terms of streams of light projecting from you out to others. So I want you to relax. And we're going to sing 5 hues, and then I'm going to walk you through this exercise. Focus on the middle eye and see yourself moving through clouds. You're flying like an eagle through these clouds, and you're moving into a valley where there's a house. And this house belongs to a master carpenter. You're going there because Spirit has told you that this master carpenter could help you build your dream home. He lives in a pleasant white house with roses in the front garden. See yourself walking slowly to his door, and you knock 3 times. Hear the knock with your inner ears. You may also knock upon a table to hear it clearly. The door opens, and there stands the carpenter. He looks like Geppetto of the Pinocchio story. Though he seems very kindly, he is a very shrewd and experienced master of his trade. He asks you, "What can I do for you?" And you respond, "I ask for a new and better house in the name of Sudman." The carpenter leads you to his table, and together you design the blueprints for your new home, which is a metaphor for your new life. You and this master carpenter are singing hue together as he designs your new outer life. Now imagine something you would like to change and put it in an ideal place that you would like to manifest. Whether it's an ideal home, neighborhood, ideal mate, ideal job, career, income. There's so many categories of life that can change. We must believe that they can. Trust this master carpenter knows what he's doing, and that it is in complete harmony with the will of Sudman. If you don't see it, feel it. Sometimes feeling is more powerful. Know that whatever he designs, the White Robe Order are standing by to make sure it will be a good fit for you and progress you along the spiritual path. For this carpenter is one of us. When you require advice or mentoring, simply call to one of us and say, Melaripa, are you in C? I ask for your advice. Go back in with this exercise and see them with this master carpenter and have your dialogue. Master Milarepa had given this exercise for its creativity, and it is one in which that you can take great part in the creation of your own life. And it's all right to make changes. For the white robe, they're always standing by to assure you that you're not going off course, that you're going forward to a happy life, and you are becoming a stronger vehicle for Sukmad. And in that, I give Melaripa's acknowledgement. Slowly open your eyes. There is a rhythm and stream in the feeling of this exercise. It's not a matter of holding, it's a matter of visual what you were thinking in this exercise that keeps the stream of feeling going. It is like living with the selfless heart. It's living in heart consciousness. It means that your heart beats in rhythm to the heart of Sigmund. It follows the same path of love, courage, honor, surrender, faith, sacrifice, and happiness. The mind wants to understand, truly, but the heart goes straight to the source of wisdom, beyond the reach of the mind. Heart consciousness allows what is to be and sees everything from the higher perspective of soul. The head wants to analyze. The higher aspect of heart always comes from the summit of the mountain to place your consciousness at the highest peak. There is no need to doggedly climb up the hill. You're already there at the summit of all. Awareness is a simple shift from the head to the heart. Needless to say, the heart is already in agreement with life. It does not need to dissect what is whole and perfect. You have been created perfectly to be imperfect here, because that's how we learn. You have been created perfectly to be imperfect, to learn. The head knocks itself against door to door, seeking to force its way in. The heart is open to God and needs no door to gain admittance. For God comes to the selfless heart like a thief in the night, entering so quietly one barely notices that you feel that something has been stolen from you. And that is your resistance to God's great love and mercy. Once the resistance is gone, the ocean of God's love will flood you with waves of sweetness and joy. There's no other feeling like it in the universe. To live in selfless heart consciousness is to be a conductor of God's love to the outside world. Once if you have allowed God's love and mercy into your open heart, you will naturally distribute that love around you. It will radiate from you in waves that reach to the furthest ends of this earth. You become a beacon of divine love, and others will be drawn to you because of your magnetic resonance, because of that love, because of your selflessness, because of the sacrifice that it took to get there. You will be blessed by the energy that comes through you, and you will in turn distribute these blessings to others. You are like the sun, radiating over a great expanse of consciousness and lighting the way for many souls who have been struggling in the dark. Living in the selfless heart opens the way for others to find the love of God within themselves. Stay in it by singing Hugh or your initiatory word or the name of a spiritual master of merit inwardly and all through your day and often when you can think of it. When the mind is doing its calisthenics, stop it in mid-thought and replace it with you. Just stop the mind's constant chatter with a simple hue. Nothing else matters. You do not need to finish the thought or analyze the problem or ruminate over a hurt, a concern. Just stop and drop. And then sing hue. This will keep your heart open. The rest will take care of itself. The selfless heart is the vehicle that will take you to God realization. You see, it means to see in this world, you must walk with eyes open. But to see within the worlds of God, one must walk with both eyes closed and see through the invisible eye that does not open or close, but remains in a window into the soul of creativity. To be realized in God, one must abandon the need to know it, for God is not known in the ordinary sense. It is felt with the fiery flame of this selfless heart. God is alive in the flame that burns all in its way and leaves a clear path to heaven. The God realized are not of this world. Though they walk alone, they are not touched by the drama that surrounds them. They move through it in a halo of compassion that bends but does not condescend. The God realized they are no longer enslaved by the illusions of the lower worlds. They see the self-aware, what it is, and they realize that some have not yet have seen heaven, but they're willing to get them there. The God realized carry heaven wherever they go. It is neither here nor there, but once visited deep within the self, it unfolds around the soul like a rose, which blooms like a perennial. In the garden of the Most High, they radiate inexpressible joy and carry the fragrance of divine bliss, yet they know the deepest sorrows of man and his perceived sense of sin. They have felt the weight of the cross. The sting of the whip. They have stumbled and fallen with their face in the dirt and have felt the foot of oppression on their back. The difference between the God realized and all others is their indifference to suffering and pain, because it is just a small price to pay for the ransom of their soul. The God realized walk in the footsteps of the saints. But they are the footsteps. They are the path. And they are the way. And as a gift this night, in dedication of us focusing on the selfless heart, and the knowing that there is a great potential for man to do great things for others, to be outside of themselves, to render great kindness. We have a capacity, each of us, to move mountains It takes but one seed to harvest a field. It only takes one soul to harvest this earth. But we're more than few. And where we have been, some have said impossible. But we still stand strong. We still believe. Our souls have become stronger. And we have seen the gems and crystals of the kingdom of heaven. And we are drawing a bridge for others who have been in long suffering, that we are there to lend a hand. We're there to give whatever gems of knowledge we can to other ways of life. We're willing to sit down with men of life and say, you know, we together can grow. Grow with us. Let's find a better way. We can find the answers together. If we can come together, then there are answers. With the heart, there's always an answer. We're already in the hue. Close your eyes. Through your middle eye, imagine your heart in that middle eye. That heart opens up into a range of mountains of various heights. What makes this sight so beautiful is the stream of colors and a mixture of blue and lavender with gold peaks. And at the center of these mountains is a tall mountain with a brilliant golden peak. It shines in all directions. Focus on the highest peak for a few seconds. Keep focusing. Now repeat after me. I open my heart to the love of Sutma and Father of all. I shine forth divine love into the world from the highest place in my heart. Allow quietude to ensue. Be one with the vibration of this heart that you see within yourself. And stay there as long as you like. Throughout this gathering and when you take your journey home. In the many travels that I have gone, many have asked, what have kept my teachers selfless? And every time I think of it, I just want to cry. Because I just can't believe that one person could emanate so much love for the world. And I had to say, in mastership, it is a whole other arena of discipline and service that they have learned long ago to discard the ego and have been free of the lower bodies for eons of our time. And so for us, we are all looking for a matter of controlling the lower bodies and teaching ourselves how to be selfless. It is a matter of devotion and faith in Sutman. They act in total faith and pure devotion to Sutman. They don't question what they're told or asked to do. They don't hesitate. They simply act in accordance with divine will. And as it gives us and them what to do, they just follow the way. Often it's within themselves. So to keep in alignment with Superman's will, the masters, they check in daily. It's kind of like, how am I driving? Where am I right now? They bow and knee to the great Father of all and say, Holy Father, thy will be done in all things. And it is their daily discipline to never look down from the great heights, but to always look up from their knees in deep reverence and obedience. And I know many have been challenged with so many graphic things that have happened in the world, but yet there are so many beautiful things that happen too. It depends on where the consciousness turns for the picture that they want to see. And I have said, what about the question of faith? Well, with the tragedies of war and conflict currently at large on the world stage, it is definitely testing the boundaries of our faith in God. And at a time of enormous loss and bereavement, such faith is sorely tested. Many are shattered to find wholeness again. And sometimes seemingly they say, Father, my faith is lost. And I say to each of you, faith in God is the shining pinnacle of our determination to see the hand of the Lord in all things, to accept all things as a Father, its plan, and for the love in the world that we live in. Only God fully understands the individual hearts of men and women and why they are here and what they've come to learn. It is not always up to us to judge and say why, but to surrender all cares at the feet of mercy and know there is a reason for all that occurs under the heavens. And God has not abandoned us, but cries with us for every soul, for every tear fallen from a broken heart. Our Father has given us free will to design our own fate. And when we make the choice for love, all is well, and we have no complaints for our Father. But often our choices take us to a dark journey to the cold side of the earth. Our choices may not be evident in this lifetime. They may carry from previous sojourns, lifetimes before, but in a fate, and when it comes to fate, whatever we come to resolve in love comes to our doorstep. It is not God that chooses our destiny. We're co-creators with all we see and experience here. To have faith is the knowingness we create with it. Our consciousness is conjoined to it. We are its children. And it is not to say we are alone with our creations or that God does not care if we suffer for our choices, but it means to accept and surrender to all that is and know that nothing happens by chance and nothing is thrust upon us from an angry or fearsome God. Does it mean we must never fight for what is right and just accept our fate? No. For courage and valor are the armor we wear as warriors of God. To accept and surrender means not to judge a thing, but recognize it as a part of Father's plan for all life on earth. Everything is connected by this universal divine cord of love that stretches into infinity. It cannot be broken. All that seems lost or forgotten is held close to the heart of the Lord, thy God, and it will be revealed to us. Nothing escapes the attention of God. When the road comes to its end, we will find ourselves at the threshold of heaven. With the selfless heart We've been given the tools of soul journey. One cannot experience soul journey without stilling the inner bodies and creating a central focus at the middle eye. And this can be achieved by a simple, steady practice of contemplation. The Way of Truth offers a wide scope of contemplative exercises to awaken the middle eye as a doorway into the secret kingdom of God. Soul Journey creates pathways that form deeper and deeper grooves into the knowledge of God. In other words, the practice of Soul Journey establishes the road to God, and it becomes more and more clear with each exercise in control of the inner bodies. The inner bodies must be in perfect alignment with the way to God to be made crystal clear. Otherwise, there are many hazy paths that can form in the consciousness that comes from the universal mind. Now, I'm not trying to sound like Orpheus in the Matrix, okay? But when we are actually in contemplation, we are creating streams of energy from our consciousness into vortexes in the inner worlds. The inner bodies must be aligned. It's almost like a facsimile alignment. To firmly establish oneself in the God worlds, one must forge their own modus operandi that can be done through the regular practice of spiritual exercises as those given by the CG exercises in our books. There is a way and direction that is unique to each soul. I was once in conference with a great holy man, and I didn't know he would give me the time that he did, but once he saw what ushered from the Way of Truth, we ended up in communion for half an hour. When I came out of his conference room, there was a priest that fell on his knees and said, "Free me." I cleared my throat for a minute. I was rather surprised that this monk kissed my hand and knelt, but I knew it was in reverence to my teachers. And he said, "I want it now." I said, "In the hallway." He said, "Well, if you're who you are, I want it right now. After all, this is a house of God. Where's the most perfect place? Here at the end of the hall? Right here, right now." So as a Roman Catholic cardinal was watching, I gave him his initiation. Many are coming to our doors because we are not asking conditionally to follow our way. We are just saying, there are many ways to get there. We just happen to be the universal light and sound. And what we give can get them there. And this just happened that this priest could see that. And because he came in such a direct fashion, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And what followed after is we began our conversation, and I did not know that I was talking to the chief rector of all the Serbian Orthodox churches. And he opened the doors to the artwork. And he said, "Whatever you represent, I know I don't have to change, but you're going to get me to heaven." I said, "Your heart has already opened the way." I looked at him. Tears went down his eyes. And I said, here we go again. I started crying with him because I knew he was waiting for this. And the head of the Orthodox Church knew of that, and he said to his secretary, allow every book that we want to put in his personal library, to put it there. He will read it. He asked me, you've come this far. He said, we don't get very many of you people interested in our way of life. I said, well, my way of life incorporates everything. He said, everything? I said, everything. So he said, what would you like? I said, I want every door open to me in every monastery in the world. I want to be able to go to every library, and what I will do is I will dedicate a book to your love of the Orthodox Church. And thus became Glimpses of God. The same week, I had dinner with Yugoslavian royalty. And I want to tell you something. We have some very strong female warriors in our path. And this woman represented them. She said, when are you going to write something that represents the women? And thus became Guardians of the Gates of Heaven. And she said, I think you need to go a little deeper than that. Then Psalms of the Prophets. We open doors. And when doors are closed, we open them. And when they're about to close, we keep them open. It's a part of the mission that we have taken upon ourselves as guardians of the universe. In that, we have learned that soul journey creates pathways. It wills of the road to God. And this facsimile alignment begins to forge signatures around us that have magnetic pull to various places in the universe. And thus, one of the reasons why Spiritual Temples was written, because many of you have been there. But the only way for you to see it, they had to be described. And one of our participants, I really love this guy, had an experience to one of these temples, and he said, I know that brother. I've met him. I've been there. But when it was described, I realized that I'm already in it. It gave me opportunity then to say, soul journey does not begin with the beginning of your contemplative exercise. It begins with your focus on the here. And I repeat, there is a way and direction that is unique to each soul. And each of us find our own unique way of using, and I say using, these exercises. But once the way to God is firmly established through repetition of these exercises, the way becomes a super highway to God for that individual soul. However, not general knowledge. Once that soul has been there, other souls of like consciousness may also use that road. So that's how your family gets there. In the early days, before we had our active clergy, I was asked to do a service of man who was passing. And I wanted to let him know, you're Catholic. Well, you asked for me. He said, well, you could get me there. And I said, well, that's okay. You're Catholic. What did you read that would make this reality what it is? He said, that guy over there. I said, you mean your grandfather? Well, if you're ready to go. I gave him the rights. His fiancée and family were outside, and she said, well, what went on? I said, well, he'll tell you about it. And she says, what happens from now? I said, well, come back between 3 and 4. Get some rest. Come back then. He'll be ready to leave. When he left, he did not leave alone. For there was something within his inner journey of life that told him that there were many unseen friends waiting for him. His fiancée said he did not know, she didn't really know what led him to ask for me rather than his own priest. Other than, he said, he's a traveling man. He can get me there. And so I accepted the charge and opened the door. Just as you have accepted the charge and opened the door. Now, one would say that was just a service, but that was soul journey. And I am saying that when you're doing soul journey in the house and you got a grandchild acting a little funny, you don't think they're not carrying that current because you're taking a part of that with you. And some of our participants have changed their whole household by not saying anything to their family, but simply going into the room and doing their contemplation because you are releasing like a radar, a radiance of energy. And I go back. Other souls of like consciousness may also use that road, for it can be seen by all who travel the inner planes. There is a matrix of intersecting lines that holds this universe where quantum theory is actually the bridge metaphysically between the material and that which is unseen. And when you are doing your contemplation, you are actually traveling on that matrix. It happens to be the energy that keeps planets from colliding into one another and becomes the foundation for Newtonian physics. Tesla was right. The currents of energy do not end with us. It's merely the consciousness of our consent to be here that holds a collectivity of energy that represents us as soul over many lifetimes that keeps us in the body that we're in. So when you hear silver cord, the cord is actually attached to that matrix. And there is an actual reference point to where it is. It can be seen by those who travel alongside of you. All the paths to God travel on that highway. And any soul of similar consciousness can access the spiritual highway system and use it to find God. This is not a well-known spiritual fact, but it does exist. It does exist through time throughout. When soul was first placed down here with Prajapati and many of the old ones, and discovered that it was separated by the 5 lower kingdoms, and they began their long journey back to the realm of God above the Great Divide. Every soul is traveling back to God, whether they are consciousness of it or not. The way is made more quickly and beautifully when there is conscious awareness of it. That one is in soul journeying and a conscious effort is made to that end. It is in our unconditional love that brings us here, which makes the way of truth what it is. Many changes are coming up. Many doors have opened up. Why is Sri Michael talking to those Mormons? Why are you talking to the Catholics, the Sikhs, the Buddhists?